Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to come in here and finish my speech from earlier today. As has been described, effectively what's happened after 9 years of this NDP little government, they've completely lost the plot. There's been scandal after scandal after scandal, and the Auditor General of Canada has continually found that there have been all kinds of misgivings in terms of spending and any kind of compliance. In fact, the Sustainable Development Technology Canada, SDTC, turned into a slush fund for Liberal insiders. And we've been hearing from a variety of different whistleblowers of just how bad this is. In fact, one SDTC whistleblower said, and I quote, "Just as I was always confident that the Auditor General would confirm the financial mismanagement in SDTC, I remain equally confident that the RCMP will substantiate the criminal activities that occurred within the organization." Another whistleblower, and I quote, "The true failure of this situation stands at the feet of our current government, whose decision to protect wrongdoers and cover up the findings over the last 12 months is a serious indictment of how our democratic systems and institutions are being corrupted by political interference. It should never have taken 2 years for the issues to reach this point, and what should have been a straightforward process turned into a bureaucratic nightmare that allowed SDTC to continue wasting millions of dollars and abusing countless employees over the last year." These are exceptionally troubling. And this isn't the first time this Parliament has had to have conversations that are very serious in nature over this government trying to cover up scandal. And one of the parts that I actually am quite frustrated with when it comes to this particular piece is the number of conflicts of interest where it was Liberal insiders that were getting money. And in fact, the Minister of Environment, who prior to joining Cabinet served as a strategic advisor for a venture capital firm called Cycle Capital from 2009 to 2018. So it wasn't a short period of time that he was this strategic advisor. This same person who is now the Minister of Environment, the person that the Prime Minister has entrusted to handle Parks Canada, which we've seen being an absolute failure in terms of what's happened in Jasper, where they were either completely incompetent or negligent, and let 30% of the homes in that community burn as a direct result of their mismanagement. But he still has shares in this Cycle Capital company, which is kind of interesting, and this exact company actually got money from this green slush fund. So it just continues showing the number of conflicts of interest, and this is where this becomes a serious problem. We have Canadians that are struggling to make ends meet. We have Canadians that are struggling to put food on their table. We're approaching Thanksgiving, and yet there are Canadians in Jasper. There are people in Jasper, 30% of the people in Jasper, their homes are gone. And this government, this NDP Liberal government, sat on their hands for the last 9 years having forest mismanagement because they failed to accept that the pine beetle was a real threat. There are emails, there is correspondence that went back and forth as to whether they should consider the political optics of prescribed burns. They completely neglected forest management. And then to add insult to injury, they turned away fire trucks, they turned away firefighters that were there, ready, willing to help. They also, interestingly enough, decided to install fire hydrants in the town site of Jasper that actually weren't compatible with the majority of the fire trucks, actually the fire trucks that are in Alberta and British Columbia, which seems like a total miss, because that basically means that you are very limited in the amount of outside help you can actually even get. And that's because Parks Canada doesn't actually understand the Western Canadian perspective. But I digress here. And this is the problem, is that this government has completely lost the plot. They continue to funnel money into the Liberal insiders, giving them almost a blank check to mismanage Canadian funds, and yet put real people at risk day in, day out. And Madam Speaker, it is exceptionally clear that Canadians have had enough. Every single weekend when I go home to my riding of Fort McMurray Cold Lake, I hear from people that tell me, we just need an election. When are we going to have an election? We can't handle the pressure any longer of the mismanagement from this NDP Liberal government, their waste, their corruption, their chaos. They see crime rising at an ever-increasing rate as a direct result of the catch and release bail policies this government pats themselves on the back for bringing forward. They are currently fighting this and preventing documents from going to the RCMP because they are afraid of what's in the documents. They make arguments that this is about charter rights, ignoring the fact that the Parliament of Canada has the right to have these. The Speaker has ruled very clearly that these documents were not to be redacted, and yet what we received was redacted documents. And so, Madam Speaker, it is very clear that this has to go to the RCMP. These documents have to go completely unredacted to the RCMP. Canadians deserve it.
Questions and comments, the Honourable Parliament.